Hello, everyone. This is Josh and Dan from Monastery Dropouts. Today, off camera, we are just talking about the divine bringing us the experience of love and the intensity of the love. And so, Dan's going to start today talking about his recent experiences, and then I'll tell about some of my experiences with divine love. And so, Dan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Hi, everybody. Yeah, Josh and I both have been having experiences of powerful, unconditional love, I think. And so that's why we're smiling. But so last night specifically, I had a very interesting experience, and that I was, I still got an ego, still got my stuff, and some old memories were popping up, which weren't super pleasant. But something kind of spontaneously happened. It wasn't really something I did, but around these unpleasant memories, there was, they were involved specific people. Uh, all the pleasant memories with these people started coming up, and I started feeling all the pleasantness. And then I started to feel this love for that and realized like, why have I been focusing on all this negative when there was so much positive also coming through my relationships with these folks? And then the love started to transform the painful memories as well, started to dissolve all that. And it wasn't like I was deciding, I'm going to love these people. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to love all this stuff. It just was springing forth from my being. The love just was just welling up and exuding and out to these past memories. And it really transformed them. And then I started to see almost everything I put my mind on as love. There were some, things that's a little tougher. Some things maybe it was just a small annoyance that you remember. Other things that may have been a solid trauma. And of course, the traumas are going to be harder to transform. But what I found was if I stuck with the feeling of love, just tuned into that and just kept allowing it, there wasn't really a doing, it was just an allowing, but I had to tune into it. And by doing that, it transformed even the tougher things that were coming up. And it really, and then I started to just think about other things in the world which I judged. And I noticed I really don't have nearly as much judgment, if any, for many, many things in the world, even though I still view a lot of things as right or wrong. But I don't really judge them. I don't judge them and say, that's a bad person. That shouldn't be happening. It's just, it is what's happening, but it's not divine. It's not godly. It's not right in that sense. But it's just from ignorance. It's just where people are at, people who are doing lower things and lower consciousness. It's just where they're at. The love is what will bring everybody back to God eventually. And some people are not feeling that love, and maybe it's not flowing through them as much. But hey, we're all children of God, and we're all heading back to the same place. And that experience just solidified that. It solidified it in my experience. So, it solidified it in my knowing rather than belief.
And
And
oh, sorry. I'm curious how you experience love because I think people hear the word and they think of like a romantic love with
mm,
someone else, or they feel like this little like fluttering in their heart. But I'm guessing with you, it's a different than just like this little like feeling of like love or connection with another person. I'm guessing it's a wider type of experience. I'm just curious of
right.
what your experience of that is.
Yeah, it's not romantic. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's an important distinction. It's not a romantic love, but it is an unconditional love. It's not really, it didn't feel like a giddy type of love. Like if I'm thinking of something that's not so good, it's not a giddy type of love. It's a more like a compassionate type of love where you feel good inside and you see the thing happening that people are doing because they don't feel good, and you feel compassion for them, and it's not like a sad compassion. it's just a recognition of where they're at, and the underlying all of it is that this is all a creation of God, and that so often somewhere in people's motivation is a love of something. You know, people may be afraid because they love their life, they don't want to die, or they may be angry at somebody because they're afraid it's going to hurt that person's going to hurt somebody they love. So in a way, it's still some of this is still coming from love, even if people are doing things on a lower energetic level.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
a
it might be. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's an important distinction is um, there's types of love where you feel love and connection with another thing, but if you have attachments to it and you're putting conditions on it, then it is a lower form of that sense. Like for instance, with your body, you can love your body and have compassion for the things that person is going through. But if you have attachment to it, then if that thing is going to die, like your body's going to die, then you have fear interacting with this sense of like love for it. And so it's a lower form. Whereas if you let go of attachment and let go of judgments towards that thing, then you can love it unconditionally no matter what happens with it. So in that sense, there's a higher form of that same experience.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And yeah, so I mean that pretty much sums up my experience. But please talk about your experiences as well.
Yeah, so I decided to take a day off of work and just meditate for most of the day this week. And I was gifted. I felt like I was really gifted by that consciousness that pervades the earth, that earth consciousness. And a lot of people would call it like the divine mother or Gaia. But I don't think we necessarily need to call it a divine type thing. I think even as an atheist, you could experience it because it's just a consciousness that pervades the earth. And I was lucky enough and gifted enough to have experience of feeling that unconditional love that the earth has for all things. And it manifested from my experience as this pulsating energy. So like my body vibrated and it felt very energetic. So the way I describe it is like if anyone's been in the ocean where it's really powerful and there's like even like 4 or 5 foot waves and you're standing on the ground and then the water comes and hits your body, it's like you can't do anything about it. The ocean is just so powerful; it just moves you, and you can't fight against it. It felt like that, um, but it felt like I was immersed. It feels like you're immersed in the water. So like you just feel this constant love and compassion for all things. And then these waves are just hitting you and moving you. And so you feel like jolts of just pure love and joy. Um, and after that experience, like this morning, I just woke up feeling a sense of that deep love. And I was gonna go do some things, but it's the weekend, so luckily I was able to just go into another room and I just started meditating and feeling it and just immersing myself back in it. But this thought came up from when I was in church, back when I was in church like 20, 30 years ago, and the members would always say they love the sinner but they hate the sin, and it just made me laugh really hard because I was like, no, like that love, there's no space for any judgment. The judgment
Right.
just falls away, and those concepts of ego aren't there. Like in that space, it's spatial and energetic, and the love is just permeating every aspect of your entire being. And so like to judge another person or judge a thing as a sin, it's like even sin or even the most horrible things that occur in this physical plane, they can't be there without this underlying vibration of the divine. And so that and to experience that love, it, the dramas of life truly just become dramas, and the eternal reality is something that's just it's just always there. So it's very liberating in that sense to truly, truly experience um, unconditional love. And even to say unconditional love just seems silly to me because uh, there's just no space for any condition whatsoever.
Mm.
And so it made me laugh because I was like, the idea of saying unconditional love, but it's only for the sinner and not the sin. It just made me think of people saying like, how do we still like, how does unconditional love? How do we still judge people, and how do we still like do these things that are we're so accustomed to as humans? Like, oh, I know how we can do it. We can say we still hate this other thing, and it's like, no, there's no room for that. Like in the divine, there's no room
Yeah.
um, for anything but that deep feeling of love. Um, so I think those are different aspects of experiencing the divine. And I think previously we have talked about a spatial quality of the divine, that you feel spatial and you feel light and euphoric, and then you still feel that love. But in this space, in this experience, it's this deep, deep vibration and energy. It's like it's so powerful. I mean, in that space, it's difficult for me to have the concept of like demons and evil, because I'm like, how do they even exist in this ocean of love?
Yeah. It's that's part of the miracle is that with the reality of God and pure love and omniscience and omnipotent power, that somehow we've come to believe that we are just these little fleeting creations, and it's
Yeah.
really quite an amazing illusion. You were talking about the loving the sinner and not the sin, and that we should actually love all of it. Ultimately, it it just was making me think of this book, the Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar, where he explains essentially the metaphysics of the creation, and he mentions that the essentially the light of God is shining on all of the Maya, the creation, so all the atoms and energy and space and time that create the illusion of this world. The light and love of God is shining on that all the time. And in the Bible it says, and the light shined on the darkness, and the darkness knew it not. And what he says that means is essentially that you will never find God by identifying with this illusionary universe. It's just not possible. You find it by going within and you tune in to the light and love of God. And it's a wonderful book. It's a little bit dense, but when you can get the clear meanings of it, it's very powerful and helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point. And I was trying to think about how other people could experience this aspect of consciousness that we're talking about. And I think one of the ways to do it is to just know that underneath the fabric, in the very fabric of your being, in the very fabric of everything around you, it's what's upholding it all. What's upholding that foundation is just this consciousness that we experience as a deep sense of love. Um, and the things that are blocking it is our own judgments, because there's no in that deep consciousness there is no judgments, and these thought processes and beliefs that we're trained to have as when we're younger, those things fade away. So our mind has to be very, very open, and our being has to be open to um, that concept that we can just look at it with childish eyes, like new, fresh eyes, without judgment. And then our brain and our mind is open enough, and our being is open enough to experience it. And I think you were going to talk about us being open to that divine love. Um,
Right, right. Yeah, it's being open is a good way to describe it because love isn't, it doesn't seem to be a thing that you do, at least in my experience, and it's not a thing that I cause. It's something that just seems to flow through me.
Yep.
And so you have to be open to the divine to allow it to flow through. And it's, my experience last night was definitely that it's not something that you do. It's almost something that the divine chooses for you when they say, well, okay, you're ready for this. And then it just happens. And so it's an interesting thing because I feel like being dedicated to the search for truth, the search for God, supreme intelligence, whatever it is that you're attracted to. But that search for truth, uh, that dedication to it, does eventually make you worthy of uh, of this unconditional love. You become a pure enough vessel that it can flow through you. And I shouldn't even say the word worthy. It's really just because sometimes it's not explainable why God chooses one person to, activate them and open them up and give them realizations. But yeah, I still feel that like the dedication is helpful,
Yep.
and it's you are once you're dedicated to this path, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other along the path, eventually you will come to realization.
Yep.
Um, but when that's going to happen, nobody knows.
Yeah, and I will say that an important lesson is that we should have as much compassion and love for ourselves as we do for anything else. And you can't you can't hate pieces of yourself or judge pieces of yourself. You're blocking that. Um, and so you start with loving yourself. And for me, one of my meditations is to breathe in and experience my body, like know that I'm in this body, and then witness the room around me and witness that that's part of my consciousness. And then when you do that, you can see your body or you can feel your body within that wider space and you can just love it. And you start to see it as that ego sense of self as a separate, almost like a separate entity of yourself, even though it's within you, and you can just love it. Um, and then I think that meditation is useful because once you feel a deep sense of love and compassion for that little being that is inside of you, then you can expand it to everything else around you. But I think a lot of people try to love other people before they love themselves, and I think there's just too much of a blockage there if you're judging yourself before them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally agree. And
And when I was in that deep meditation this week, the divine, like that divine mother or like that consciousness, it just had love for everything, and even like the darkest things within me and the darkest experiences or decisions I've made in my life, there was just no room for any judgment upon myself. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing because then you can let yourself go and you can just like let yourself expand outward, because you just follow that flow of love out into the world. And so um, yeah, it's a good experience. I'd recommend it.
yeah, and it's like when I look on things I did, which may not have been so good, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so full of love that I did that. But it's like that's where it's like it's almost like dualistic, where you
Yeah,
the things that normally you wouldn't be proud of or you made a mistake, you have compassion for yourself. You're like, I did the best I could. I was trying.
yeah,
And then the good things, you're like, wow, that was so full of love, what I did then and what that person did for me. It was such a loving thing. And then you do feel more like a warm love. And so, yeah, a really cool thing.
yeah, yeah. And those experiences, that you're having a blockages when you feel like the shame or the fear, or the
Right.
doubt, or if you're looking at someone else and you're saying negative things, or you're looking at yourself and saying negative things, that that's blocking you to some extent. So there's good methods to let that stuff go. And I think if a person is having issues with that, you say you recognize the judgment towards yourself or towards another person, and because you're so caught up in it and you're attached to that thought, you can just love it, and you know that the divine
Mhm.
is loving it. And so, if you can
Right.
just let go of your ego sense of self and just be like, well, the divine loves this thing, so I can let it go. It frees you up to just merge into that wider love, the wider consciousness.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, definitely judgment of yourself and others is blocking that divine flow. And it's always coming from a place of ignorance. There's something that you're not understanding correctly. If it could simply be that, hey, you're not recognizing that, that person or yourself, you did your best, and maybe you're not recognizing that even if you made a mistake, your motivation was good underlying in some way. And even if your motivation wasn't good, that was the best you could do. And you know, uh, on and on. But there's
Yeah.
something that's just not being understood correctly. And if until you start to get a feeling of the wider consciousness that you are, it's natural to have these errors in understanding. These things that you're gonna have feelings which are not divine because you're not in that place of divine understanding. You're seeing it from things from your ego's perspective,
Yeah.
um, which the ego really doesn't have much to do with love.
No. No, and I feel like from the times that I've watched the ego, it kind of just becomes like a spatial entity that it's not so big in that divine love. It's just kind of like this spatial thing that's there. And I do think that uh the world, like this consciousness is rising in people, and I think that um right now there's a lot of fear and stuff like that in the world, but
Mm.
for people who feel like they're disconnected from it, I would just keep working at it and keep focusing on that love, because I think more and more is rising. And I think more and more people are just feeling those energy centers within their body opening up. And so it's a good time in the history of mankind to focus on it, because I think for a lot of us, it's opening up much more easily in us than it would have, 500 years ago when it was a darker time.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned this once before, but probably not on a video, that for people who are seeking truth and intense spiritual seekers, this may actually be an easier time. You may
Yeah.
have great opportunity now. For people who are not seeking truth and are still just mired in ignorance and things like racism and stuff like that, it's going to be harder and harder for those people, is what you had said. And I think that's true, and we can kind of see that today happening. And but I expect that, it's that process is going to continue, and it can be a painful process, on a societal level. But
Yeah. Yeah,
if you
it's
can
funny.
find,
It's sorry. It just reminds me of like someone being like, "Oh my God, these people are like open and loving to everyone. This is ridiculous." Like, and they're getting more and more upset and like getting more and more angry, and it's like they're falling more into this like dark state because like people are being more and more accepting and loving towards other people.
yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, with the technology we have, there's no reason for anybody to go hungry. There's no reason for anybody not to have health care. But I was watching a video with Federico Fajan. He's a brilliant inventor and sort of a physicist, not a academic physicist, I would say, but he also had spiritual experiences. And he said, if man would just learn to cooperate instead of be competitive, he's like, it would just be so transforming for the world.
Yeah.
And we're operating under this survival of the fittest. He's like, it's just crazy. It's just insanity. And I mean, yeah, we
Yeah.
we both know that. We both agree with that, and
Yeah.
it's hopefully that will be eventually a paradigm shift for the entire world, that
Yeah.
where humans cooperate instead of compete with each other to see who will be the lone survivor in the end.
Yeah. And I think it's just a matter of time. Like more and more people are opening up, and it's just a process that needs to play out. But uh, it is, I mean, it's getting to the point of being ridiculous, but I guess we'll have to just keep watching it.
Yeah, yeah. Keep
Yeah.
keep watching and keep evolving.
Yeah, and I think for us on a personal level, it's like we're making our contribution by um, merging and feeling that those divine qualities more and more, whether it's wisdom or love, or we're acting compassionately towards other beings or people, or the world in general. So the more that we expand ourselves and focus on ourselves, merging into that higher space, it just changes the energy of the entire planet. And so,
Yeah.
and it happens one person and one group at a time.
Yeah. Every single loving thought that you have, every loving feeling for somebody changes the entire world in a small way. It
Mhm.
sounds unbelievable, but I think modern physics would actually support that
Yeah.
now, which
Yeah.
is
And I feel like
fascinating.
the deeper you're in it, the more you feel it too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, yeah. Thanks for the talk, Dan, and thanks for joining us at Monastery Dropouts. And everyone have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.